Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sphere of Success, where we talk to prominent business people who have gone through the ringer, so to speak, with adversity and challenge to not only succeed in their business, but also to thrive in themselves, because it's so important that we're along for the journey and that we're optimized with health and wellness and joy and happiness for what we do as well. And sometimes, you know what, those dark times, and we've all had them, and we will always continue to have them because it just doesn't stop. That in business, they can be the setups rather than the setbacks that take us on to bigger, brighter things. But we all know that the darkest is just before the dawn, and sometimes it don't quite feel like that when we're going through it. So today, joining me here is the Northwest's and now the Nationals supply chain queen extraordinaire. She has the most amazing business called GB Shared. She's an Innovation UK winner. She is absolutely on fire with a mission to make a movement, not just in the UK, but internationally as well, to bring everybody together to collaborate and share. She's just the most amazing entrepreneur, and I have to say, wonderful friend of mine, the great, the wonderful, the lovely Lisa Edge. Welcome.
Oh, Deborah, what an introduction. Thank you so much. That's most kind.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. Credit where it's due. And Lisa has a fascinating, truly fascinating backstory. So I'd love to ask you, Lisa, just to start us off, could you give us a brief run through of your amazing backstory to see how you've come to where you are today?
Yeah, it's been a bit colourful. um, to be fair, I came from a very loving family. I was one of 5 children, one of the youngest, and we were born and raised in Bolton in the Northwest. And yeah, it was a solid upbringing with very, very strong community values. So carry John's bags, let Mary sit on the bus, lend Peter a cup of sugar. So a very, very strong sense of community spirit. And I think sort of as I grew up and entered adulthood and I became a young mum as well, my family broke down at an early age and I kind of didn't go off the rails. I just sort of lost focus without that stability of home. And I became a young mum and a single young mum. And I was put on one of the best shameless estates that Bolton had to offer at the time. But it was my son being born that changed everything for me, really. Um, I think when you're a new mum, there's this natural oozing of love. And, I made that little boy a lot of promises that this wasn't where we were going to grow up and that there was bigger and better things around the corner. And they were my dark days before my dawn, as you say, Deborah. But for him, every bit of fight in me came out. And so I went to the local college. I did a few years typing clerical shorthand. I got a job in the private sector. I worked for the electricity board for a number of years, and back then it was a job for life. So little did I know how many changes were about to come my way. That job allowed me to pass my driving test, save up for a deposit on my first home. And I think when I'd done that, I kind of looked around and thought, well, I now own a house and a car and a job. And I probably owe that to education. So why don't I go back and get some more? So education was really my route out. And I'd got married at this point and had 3 more children. So I was a working mum of 4, juggling before school clubs and after school clubs and homeworks and parents' evenings and packed lunches and trying to work full time as well. And on top of that, I then went to night school to study further. And I went back this time to Blackburn College and I did accounting and bookkeeping, marketing, did a level 5 in leadership, management degree, teaching qualification, HND in computing, literally anything they would give me, I took because first of all, it was free. Back then, everything was funded and they gave it away. So I took as much as I could. And secondly, I was proof in the pudding that an education can move you forward. So I figured the more of it I got, the more forward I would go. It wasn't easy juggling children and trying to get the homework done and get them into bed and then get down to college, but I did it, and over many years. And I did that much training. The local college said, would you like a job? You're here more than the staff. That's more than 20 years ago now. So of course you could get that jobs that way back then, excuse me, but not today. And I went into, well, out of the private sector into the public sector, and very quickly looked at the commercial arm and started engaging with businesses. And it wasn't a really strongly developed area in education at that point. So I asked if I could take the business bit and try to make a go of it. And before you know it, we took it from 40,000 to a couple of million. And over 20 years, I thoroughly loved every bit of that job. I was privy from a public sector perspective of the county's landscapes of funding and tenders and contracts and partnerships, and the targets of reducing unemployment and upskilling people and everything else. But in the main, whilst I was in public sector, I was working with the private sector, and their pain points are very different. You know, how do I recruit? Which networking group do I join? How do I find funding? How do I get into public sector contracts? So I suddenly realised I was in this really privileged position that was sort of bridging the gap in between public and private sector. And I think over time, my loyalties sadly shifted from public sector into the private sector, because I could see how hard these businesses were working and they were desperate to do better. And in some ways, I felt that the public sector was a barrier to that. You know, they've got funding and tenders and spend and SME spend targets and sustainable spend targets, but across our county we had 80,000 businesses operating separately. We had no devolution, no combined authority, no collaborative approach. It was very much every man for themselves, and I felt so sorry for these businesses. And I used every influence I could in public sector to share all the opportunities that came across my desk with these businesses. And I didn't grow my department by selling, I grew it by sharing the opportunities that came to my desk with other people. And naturally they would say, Lisa, I won that tender, I need 3 apprentices, or Lisa, I won that funding, I need 6 apprentices. And we grew it by helping, not by selling. And it was a very satisfying feeling as well. And I grew a brilliant network over those 20 years. Because a very long story short, I proposed at senior level to public sector we should collaborate a little bit more, because as well as those 80,000 businesses, we had, 12 authorities, 2 unitary authorities, Lancashire County Council, that was 15 councils Lancashire businesses could go to, very confusing. We've got 3 chambers of commerce across the county, we've got the FSB, we've got the LEP, we've got Boost, we've got the Growth Hub, we've got all this great stuff. And what I felt that was missing was the glue that held it all together. Because for 20 years, I watched those businesses struggling to find what was abundant in our county. And so at senior level, I made a suggestion that we centralise it all and, you know, stop operating separately and work as one, and centralise everything in Lancashire so that if you lived and worked here, you could find everything. And I thought that that would help to stimulate our county and the people in it. And sadly, I got a pat on the head. Great idea, Lisa, but only an idiot would try and connect this county. And before I knew it, the words came out of my mouth, which were, and step forward, idiot, I quit. And I walked out of there thinking, oh dear, I've just given up a job I love. And, you know, dark days again, Deborah. I was fostering, divorcing, remortgaging. I had 4 children. And I stood in the middle of Lancashire and asked the county who wanted to start sharing. So it seemed like a ridiculous thing to do at the time. But I had 20 years of really good relationships with businesses, and I knew what I was doing. And we invested my severance from public sector into building the first share site, which is Lancashare. And that's where it all began back in 2016.
Wow. I need to take a deep breath, because that literally is makes you out of breath just listening to it all. I mean, my goodness me. Gosh, if there's any example of, yes, you can do it all and have it all, here it's just there and then, you know, busy mum, career driven, learning, keeping going through the face of adversity, being told no and not giving up and taking that as, well, that's it then, and pushing forward. And then, as you say, divorce, remortgaging, investing in something which was your life savings at that point, into something that you didn't know if it's going to be successful or not, but you had that core belief that it's something that you would nail your colours to the mast with and go down with the ship if necessary, which sometimes it takes that complete 100%, I don't care what it takes, this is going to work and I'm going to make it work. So congratulations to you, because there's so much that we can unpack for people on how that actually now has transpired. So you've had this journey over 20 or so years. Where do you stand at the moment with what you're doing?
Well, what a journey the last 8 years have been since that very first share site. I launched Lancashare on Lancashire Day 2016 and invited the first 100 businesses to a hotel and stood at the front and told them what sharing was all about. And in a nutshell, we'd created a digital platform that anybody in the county could access for free and access all of the resources that were on there, or they could go a step further, buy a membership and join us. Every business in Lancashire is a jigsaw piece that makes up the full picture, and without them all, we'll never be complete. But for those that did join us, those pictures started to evolve, and slowly a centralised resource pool for Lancashire began to fill up. And it filled up with local businesses, local funding, local jobs, local events, local news, offers, discounts, and lots of other things. And the more we shared, the bigger it got, and the bigger the impact it had. Within a year, we were multi-award winning Northern Powerhouse partners, which was incredible. And that's testament to the businesses, because 100% of the content you see on our share sites comes from them, not us. We've created the framework, they share to it, and it's their content that gets us that success. So every award we've ever won since is dedicated to those members that continually share. We then looked at other counties and expanded over the next few years to Lancashire, Cumbria, Yorkshire, Merseyside, and pretty much boxed off the Northwest and continued to grow. And of course, we looked at our model. Shall we license? Shall we franchise? How are we going to manage this? And there were 5 share sites and they were all operating separately. At that time, the pandemic hit, so we braced ourselves like every other business, and then realised actually we operate seamlessly in a pandemic. We're on the internet, you can't close that, so let's keep going. First day of lockdown, councils locally rang us up. Can you help us with local supply chains? Our national ones have collapsed. Yes, of course we can. We've been begging you to buy off local businesses for years. Please do. So we started to share funding and tender opportunities, and today we've shared millions in funding and billions in tenders. And our tenders go into our members' inboxes by location and by industry as well. And then we added bid support, because we realised it was great giving the businesses these tenders, but they didn't have the skills to write them and win them. And we continued. Really what we were doing was picking up our platform, putting it in another county and testing and challenging it, and then investing again to make it right for that county. So we found that Lancashire liked relationships. So lots of introductions in Lancashire. Doesn't matter if you're doing £50 or 5,000, they like a relationship. Manchester, less so, more transactional, very quick. How fast can I have it? How quickly can I share? But when it came to Cumbria, very different again, because the county is so disparate. So it's saving them travelling 25 miles in between each business just to have that meeting, because there's digital connectivity. So we continued to grow, and as I said, the pandemic hit us, and something quite significant happened to me personally in the pandemic. My youngest was sitting her exams, and school closed the doors basically and said, go home, we're closing. There are no exams, we'll guess your results. Send your dress back, there's no prom. Don't say goodbye to your friends. Go away, we don't need to see you again. And at 15 and a half, they never contacted her again either. So she spent 18 months in a bedroom during the pandemic, where businesses were closed, so we couldn't send her out for a job. Colleges had moved online, so it was difficult for her to apply or make new friends and things like that. So it was a really challenging time, and I was using everything in my armoury to support her in her mental health. But I think what happened was lots of our members that traditionally would have rung us up about their companies were ringing us up about their children. Are there any youth jobs on the platform? Is there any mental health support? Is there anything that will get my son out of his bedroom? So clearly, for me, it was a wider issue. And so, you know, we looked at the reach we had, and we had a few thousand reach at that time. And we said, well, look, you've been successfully sharing with each other in your counties. If we built a youth platform, would you share opportunities to that as well? And it was a unanimous yes. These businesses are either parents or they need to recruit these young people. So anything they could do to help, they could. So we secured a smart grant off Innovate UK, very challenging smart grant because the odds are really low. And we won that smart grant, and they funded the build of our national youth platform. And we bolted it on to each membership so that those businesses couldn't just share with each other and their counties and communities, but you know, they could share opportunities with young people, 16 to 24-year-olds. So jobs, work placement, careers advice, life skills, property, funding, entrepreneurship. But then, because I spent 20 years in education, I really wanted these businesses to add value in things that weren't traditionally training entrepreneurship. But, you know, I remember a business ringing me up and saying, well, what can I share? And I said, are you kidding? You're a mortgage advisor. Teach my kids how to get a mortgage. You're an accountant. Teach them how to budget. And so we can all share something with those young people. And because we had it funded, we rolled it out for free. We've continued to fund it ourselves so that it doesn't cost anybody to use it. And it's been a lifeline for 16 to 24-year-olds. It won a national award in its first year of operation. So we were then with 5 counties in a national youth platform. Off we went with the help of an amazing ambassador in the Northeast to open up in the Northeast. 4 counties in a year, our fastest moving region. And I think when it comes to the Northeast, they're so far away from London, they perhaps feel a little disconnected. So the platform gave them the ability to control their own region and to centralise their own jobs and collaborate themselves. There was, of course, Deborah, a bigger picture. 9 counties now, 1 national youth platform. But I started to turn my attention to the rest of the UK and realised there's 104 counties. And I've not got 104 years. So how am I going to grow this thing? And whilst we were busy looking at that, one of the sources of understanding what we've done and where we might be going was to look at the data. So I looked at the Lancashire platform because it was the oldest and the most mature. And we realised very quickly we shared thousands of jobs with local people. And when we tracked those jobs, actually, we'd filled quite a lot. And so collectively, between us and the businesses, we'd reduced unemployment in Lancashire. When we looked at how many connections we'd created between Lancashire businesses and followed those relationships, we realised we'd created hundreds of local supply chains as well. Because our members could help charities or young people, we'd embedded tons of social values. And they were all working online, they were all working locally, ethically and sustainably. So at that point, I kind of looked at the data and asked myself, wait a minute, are we a sharing platform or are we a sustainable marketplace? Because these businesses are getting greener with every share. So in a nutshell, Deborah, when somebody comes along and puts a job on the platform, it's because they really need to recruit, not because they're looking to reduce unemployment locally. But in effect, when we advertise that job and a local person gets it, that's what the impact is. So naturally for me, being the innovator, I've got to go off and do something with that. And I realised climate change is a bit of a mess. Government are pushing a little bit on sustainability. Businesses have not got a lot of support wrapped around them. So I went off and spoke to a global accreditor and said, if you were measuring Deborah, I'm going to give her a green badge. What would you measure her on? Is it just a carbon certificate or green energy, etc.? And they said, oh no, that's part of it. But, you know, and is she involved in a community? Does she support charities? Does she buy locally? Does she create local supply chains? Does she sell locally? Does she help the future generations? And I said, but that's everything my membership asks Deborah to do. Well, then why are you not educating her and rewarding her for a green activity? The brain went. So that's what we did. We mapped our customer journey to their global accreditation. So people can now come to GB Shared and use it for free, find a job, join your local talent pool, do whatever you want. Or you can join as a paid member and contribute to making your county stronger, share your intelligence, get connected, find funding, tenders and other opportunities. And we track and measure all the returns that keeps businesses sharing. Or you can share with future generations, young people, and really get involved in your community. And we'll track all the digital reach and everything that your membership generated, but we'll also, throughout your membership now, educate you and reward you with green points for any sustainable behaviour. And those green points over the course of your membership can lead to natural sustainable accreditation. So it's the difference between an accreditor coming to you and ticking boxes and providing you with some training and helping you set up some policies and then ticking that you're sustainable, excuse me, to what we're doing is saying, okay, let me see you do the work in our community and we'll badge you up for it. So we want to see the activity, we want to see the action, we want to see the impact. And that's really what the share sites were set up for. So it became apparent to me we were more of a sustainable marketplace, and we partnered with a global accreditor. We'd mapped our journey to customer accreditation, to sustainable accreditation. And one last thing happened, and talk about the universe having my back. When I'd done all of that, Deborah, the UK government released a new procurement bill. And in a nutshell, it said we're the biggest contributors to the UK economy. Businesses aren't doing much about climate change. The UK are legally bound to climate change targets. If you want to win our contracts and frameworks in future, you're going to need to evidence your sustainable standing. And there it was, all of our members ringing us up. Why can I not win these tenders? How do I become sustainable? I have no idea where to start. And it was just perfect timing for us. I suggested to UK government that despite the fact they'd made a promise to procure sustainably, the UK had no sustainable supply chain for them to procure from, and that we could fill that market gap. Some of our members in the Northeast and Northwest have already achieved global sustainable accreditation just through doing business, nothing out of the ordinary. And they are genuinely adding value to their county, their community, their business, and the planet while they use the membership. And I just think it's wonderful that so many people are engaging with it. And whether they use the sustainable aspects or not, they're still making a difference and they're still growing their business. So for those that do become sustainably accredited, we secure them a place in our new UK Sustainable Supply Chain Register. And for developing that, I won last year's Women in Innovation Award with Innovate UK, which means the government funded that rebuild and gave us a year of strategic support. And we continue to be supported because it's such a market gap. They don't want it to fail. So yeah, we're on quite a trajectory. There are 10 counties open. We've opened Cheshire since we went national just a few weeks ago. There are registrations coming through from Scotland, London, and all over the country. I'm super excited about growing it. And there's a little bit of international conversation taking place, because I think the thing that people need to recognise is 56% of businesses either don't know about sustainable initiatives or can't afford them. And this way, you don't have to afford a sustainable initiative, just do business. In fact, we can save you a lot of money from the comfort of your desk. You can buy, sell, connect, recruit, find funding, win business, and you spend no carbon. So it's a great way of operating. It saves you money because you're not having to go out and spend so much on other things. And it's going to reduce you a lot of carbon and make you more proactive and yeah, more progressive. So our members now are still place-based. So all of our Lancashire members are still in Lancashire, but they can travel the rest of the country if they want without leaving their desk. And the rest of the country can come and travel into Lancashire and have a look at what we're sharing here without leaving their desks. So we are basically digitising supply chains across the UK and making them sustainable as we go. And it's a joy to be part of.
Amazing. And everybody, can't you just tell? The Northern Powerhouse, I think, actually is you. I think it's Lisa Edge. My goodness me, what value have you given us today? Absolutely incredible. Thank you.
Thank you.
To wrap up what the discussion is, and please, everybody, take a look at GB Shared and take a look at Gift Share as well within GB Share, because this is something which is going to really, really take off. And you can look at that outside, and Lisa can have chats with you as well on that if you're interested. But when you're looking at success, Lisa, what does success mean to you?
It's funny because I think most people would probably say, you know, I've got financial freedom, I'm sat back, the business is done. I thoroughly love what I do. You know, I don't need trophies and awards because I can see on my dashboard the people I help every day, the people that are getting into work because of the platform we've got. And, you know, making that difference definitely feeds my soul. So success is definitely wrapped around making a difference. And we use a few strap lines, which is, you know, we're not chasing a million, we're chasing a difference. We're trying to make the difference, not the money. And we'd rather make the impact than the income. So our membership isn't priced very high. I think it's £35 a month if people want to get on. And you can meet one business a week, 10 businesses a week, or you control the entire country if you want. You control how much or a little you use your membership. But in terms of success, for me, at the end of this journey, it isn't going to be how successful am I, but how successful did I make others? That's my measure of success, that we made a difference, that people didn't put their hand in the pocket and invest in our business just because it was a good idea, but because it worked for them. And it genuinely did work. And in helping those, the success is, if I take my last breath and GB Shared is set up and the youth platform continues, I've left a legacy for people, for the planet, for supply chains, for sustainability, for young adults, all over the place. And that, for me, that's what I'm very happy with, the fact that I made a mark and made a difference. And, you know, I left school with no qualifications, and later this year, I'll be awarded a purple plaque in recognition of our innovation. That's my measure of success, personal success, if I'm honest with you, Deborah, because, well, you know, when you leave school early and you're having a baby quite young, the volume of people that say you're a loser, or you'll never amount to anything, or what a waste, or you'll never do it now. I've just turned 50. I've got 4 children. They're all grown up. I've got 2 grandchildren, which I'm young enough to enjoy. My business is growing. I'm in a great place and lots of energy to still do it. And the career's finished. So success is already here. It's not something I'm chasing, it's something I've already got. And yeah, it just making a difference. Having that purple plastic, it's the silliest thing, Deborah, because it's a piece of metal, but I could happily pull up a deck chair in front of it and look at it all day. Why? Because it means I've been recognised for making a positive difference on the world. There are thousands of plaques recognising pioneers all across the UK, yet only 4% have ever been awarded to women. Still 80% of people can't name one single female tech founder. So rack your brains if you can think of one, because I'd love to know. That's a statistic, as a mother of 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters, that I'm really keen to change. And so, yeah, my success is the change I can make along the way, really. And that little bit of satisfaction that I didn't waste the time I've got here.
Wonderful. Inspirational. Thank you. Now, I should imagine there are people like going, oh my goodness, how do I get hold of Lisa? So could you give us your contact details, please?
Of course I can. You can visit the GB Shared website, which is just gbshared.co.uk. You can email us at hello@gbshared.co.uk. You can find me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or you can just Google or even ChatGPT Lisa Edge and see what comes up. We're on a mission. If you want to be on the mission with us, you can join us. You can join us for free, you can join us for paid, or you can wave at us from afar. We don't mind. But we're continuing on this mission to make a difference in every single UK county.
Thank you, Lisa. And to everybody listening, thank you. And we will see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.